Kate was a young woman who married a man named Ken, hoping for love and companionship. But Ken was a monster, a man who didn't value the treasure he had. From the moment they got married, he began to reveal his true nature. He was so cruel, heartless, and violent. He controlled Kate's every move, cutting her off from family and friends. He made sure she had one to talk to whenever he beats her. Kate became pregnant. She was happy and hoped that the news of their child would change her husband. Maybe fatherhood would soften him, make him see that he had something precious to protect. But Ken was not a man capable of love or change. Instead, his rage grew worse. He saw her pregnancy as an inconvenience, something that made her weak and unable to serve him as she once did. Every time he beat her, the neighbors would intervene, but Ken never cared. He knew that at the end of the day, he was still the man of the house, and Kate had nowhere else to go. Then, one night, while he was beating her as usual, he kicked her hard in the stomach, Kate collapsing to the floor. She lost consciousness instantly. The neighbors who came to separate them as usual, rushed her to the hospital, in order to save her life and that of the unborn child. The doctors tried as much as they could to make her stable. So after few hours, she entered labor. Her body was so weak from all the beatings and pain Ken had been inflicting on her, and the labor was long and very painful as well. Hours passed and the baby had not come. Kate started getting tired. She felt her strength failing her. So the doctors saw the danger and decided to perform an emergency surgery on her so that they can save both the mother and baby. The operation was successful, and she finally laid eyes on her baby girl. She was small, fragile, and very beautiful. With tears in her eyes, she knew that she was slipping away but could not help it. So she whispered the name Angel before she gave up her ghost. Kate passed away. After Kate delivered her baby, one of the good neighbors was still with her at the hospital, quickly ran home to tell Ken that his wife went into labor that same night. He quickly ran out of the house to go meet her and beg her to forgive him for all the maltreatment. It was as if a veil cleared from his eyes. He now realized how much of a monster he was. As soon as Ken arrived at the hospital, expecting to see his wife and his newborn child, instead, he was met with the lifeless body of the woman he had broken beyond repair. For the first time, the weight of all his actions sank in. He fell to his knees, crying bitterly, pleading for her to wake up. He even shook her lifeless body in hope that she was just playing with him. But it was too late. Those neighbors that had been trying to separate Ken and his wife during every fight became so angry as they heard that Kate passed after her body could not carry all the pain. Immediately, they called the police on him. He was jailed from the jail Angel was born. So eventually, he was charged for domestic violence and manslaughter. Every day in jail, he would cry wishing it was all a dream. He wished he could go back in time to right all his wrongs. Some days, he would even see the ghost of his wife looking sad because she died, and pains add deep sadness. Now, Angel had no family member as Ken cut her mother off from her family and no one could even come for her rescue. So she was taken to a foster care where she grew up. As years passed, Angel grew into a very beautiful girl whom everyone loved, but in the midst of all the love she got from people, she longed for a family. After she learned about her father and everything he did, she decided to forgive him and hoped to live with him when he is finally released. She thought that her father Ken was going to be a changed man after serving that long in jail. After his release, she still agreed to live with him. And that was the beginning of Angel's troubles. Little did she know that demons do not disappear overnight. Ken hadn't changed. If anything, he had only grown colder. He saw Angel as the reason for Kate's death, the child that had taken away the only woman who had ever been his. Every time, for no reason, he would abuse Angel, beat her up and even starve her, saying that her coming killed his wife. He took out all his frustration and pain on her and refused to take blame and responsibility for his mistakes. The bruises she bore were not just from his hands but from his words, the cruel reminders that she was unwanted. Every day, she endured his anger, his scorn, his belief that she had stolen something from him. Then one night, after a particularly violent beating, Angel decided she had had enough. She packed what little she had and ran away. She knew that she had nowhere to go to, but she felt it was better off in the street than to be in her father's house. That night, she slept on the street. She cried so much, wishing that she was never born. She knew that if only her mother were to be alive, she wouldn't have suffered. Angel slept in the street for months until she was able to understand how things worked. So one day, she met a young man named Whale. He was older, charming, and for the first time, someone who seemed to care about her. After hearing her story, he promised to protect and love her, knowing that she had no one to turn to. Angel, being so naive, believed him. But soon, his kindness turned into control, which gradually turned into cruelty. The cycle of pain had found her once again. Since Angel moved in with him, she had no choice than to become his girlfriend. But sadly for Angel, she couldn't go anywhere with all the cruelty Whale showed her. She became his punching bag, and he derived so much joy when he inflicts pain on her. One day, Angel discovered that she was pregnant. She cried so bitterly, knowing that she was now trapped in a nightmare. Whale became a monster just like her father. He beat her, berated her, blamed her for things she had no control over. Every day was a battle to survive. The pregnancy came so many challenges for her. She had nothing, no food, no money, no one to turn to. She tried to endure, hoping that when her child was born, things would change. But the stress, the malnourishment, the pain, it was all too much for her body to bear. So on the day of delivery, Angel had the quickest delivery. But something bad struck her. The midwife held her baby, who was shining green, came out with a long face. Angel, who was trying to rest after the delivery, sprang up from the bed immediately as soon as she saw the nurse's sad face. She started asking the nurse if her baby was okay. At that point she had many questions, but all she heard from the nurse was, "We're sorry, the baby could not make it after everything we did to keep him alive." Angel cried so bitterly. So she demanded to hold her baby before he would be taken from her. So she held the lifeless child in her arms, weeping until there were no more tears left to cry. She knew that she had so much resentment towards her son's father, but that didn't stop her from loving her son unconditionally. But in that moment, something inside her shattered completely. She had lost everything: her mother, her childhood, her innocence, and now, her own child. The world had shown her nothing but cruelty, and she had nothing left to give. For the first time in her life, she made a decision for herself. After she recovered, she walked away, leaving behind Whale and everyone she knew to start life afresh in a new place. But she promised herself that she would never allow herself to repeat the mistake of being desperate for love again. After leaving her past behind, Angel settled in a new town, determined to start over. She found solace in a women's shelter where she received help, guidance, and a sense of belonging. The scars of her past were still there, but for the first time, she felt like she had a future worth fighting for. As Angel healed, she discovered something unexpected: a love for writing. She started keeping a journal, pouring out her pain, memories, and dreams onto paper. What began as a personal coping mechanism soon turned into something more. The shelter workers encouraged her to share her story, and before long, she started writing articles and short pieces for local publications about domestic violence and survival. A journalist from a prominent magazine came across her work and reached out, wanting to feature her story. Angel hesitated but eventually agreed, realizing that her words had the power to help others. The article went viral, bringing her recognition and connecting her with other survivors. Soon, she found herself invited to speak at events, sharing her journey and inspiring women who had suffered as she had. Through writing and public speaking, Angel turned her pain into power. She founded an organization dedicated to helping abused women escape dangerous situations, ensuring that no one else would feel as alone as she once had. One evening, after an event where she had shared her story, a woman in the crowd approached her. The woman's eyes brimmed with unshed tears as she reached for Angel's hands. "I knew your mother," she said softly. Angel froze, her heart pounding. The woman introduced herself as Margaret, a close friend of Kate's from years ago. Margaret had known about Ken's abuse and had tried to help Kate escape before she got married. But Ken had cut her off, just as he had done to everyone else. Margaret had searched for Kate, but sadly she was met by news of her death. Then later she started looking for Angel, but by the time she discovered what had happened, Angel had already disappeared from the foster system. "You are so much like her," Margaret whispered. "Strong, resilient. Kate would be so proud of you." The revelation overwhelmed Angel. For so long, she had felt like an orphan with no real connections. Now, she had someone who had loved her mother and could tell her more about the woman she never got to know. Margaret gave Angel old letters that Kate had written but never sent, filled with love, regret, and dreams she never got to fulfill. Reading them, Angel felt an unbreakable bond with her mother. She cried, not just for what she had lost but for the strength and love Kate had tried to hold on to, despite everything. Margaret became the family Angel had longed for, offering her the kind of love and guidance she had never known. Meanwhile, Ken had spent years in prison, haunted by his past. The loneliness had given him time to reflect, but it was Angel's article that shattered him completely. Seeing his daughter's words, her pain, and how she had suffered because of him made him realize the true extent of what he had done. Upon his release, he reached out to Angel, not expecting forgiveness but hoping for a chance to make amends. Angel, now stronger and in control of her life, agreed to meet him, not because she needed his apology but because she wanted closure. Ken looked old, worn out by years of guilt. He didn't make excuses, all he asked for was forgiveness. He simply said, "I am sorry. And I know that doesn't change anything. I just want to die in peace knowing that you have forgiven me for all the wrong I did to you and your mother." He further confessed saying, "I know deep down that I was the cause of your mother's death. I killed my wife with my own hands." He cried the more so bitterly. Tears were running down Angel's face as she heard her father's words. After everything she studied him, searching for the monster she had feared all her life. But all she saw was a broken man, weighed down by his sins. "I don't need your apology to heal," she said. "I already saved myself." Ken wept again, not because he expected to be forgiven, but because he realized the greatest punishment he would ever face was knowing he had lost the only people who had ever loved him. Angel walked away that day, not with anger, but with peace. She had risen from the ashes of her past, stronger and unbreakable. She had found her purpose, her voice, and, most importantly, herself. And for the first time in her life, she truly felt free. What did you learn from this story today? Kindly share your take-home in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories. See you in the next.